You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth on all those acres can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. It's a lot to ask of a mower. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done season after season, and ergonomically designed to keep you comfortable mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance. Available exclusively at independent Gravely dealers.
Visit the new location of Myers Equipment and Supply, 301 North Jefferson Street in Dublin. Welcome everybody. I have my dear friend with me today, Corporal Dan Stiles with Department of Natural Resources, and I was thinking riding out here, we're at the Lawrence County Sportsman's Club, and we hadn't talked in quite a while, have we?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Well, first of all, great to see you.
Good to see you.
And I always appreciate when I call on you, take the time to come and talk with me, because I know how important the issues we're going to talk about are important to you. So,
absolutely.
Before we get into all that, what exactly do you do?
Well, as a conservation officer, game warden, we're responsible for protecting the resources in the state of Georgia, whether it be wildlife, your water, the environment, and also public safety. A lot of violations that occur with us in conjunction with boating or hunting really have a basis in public safety.
Mm-hmm. And as an officer with the Department of Natural Resources, you basically have arrest powers and authority all over the state, don't you?
Yes, sir, we do. We're state rangers or game wardens, state game wardens. So.
And we need people to know, not only under that umbrella, but if you saw someone going down the road swerving all over the road and you suspected it's a drunk driver, you're going to pull them over.
Absolutely. We're at our core, we're public safety officers, just like any other police officer, and we can and do make traffic stops when the situation dictates. You know, if I'm concerned about the driver or you know, their impact on other people, we'll go ahead and make that traffic stop and make sure everything's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only reason I say that, Dan, is I want our viewers to know that when an officer with the Department of Natural Resources or any law enforcement officer stops you and asks you to show your license, insurance, or any questions you got, that's the only reason I really bring that up. But you know, there's so many careers. I was looking at y'all's website.
Yes, sir. What
a user-friendly website that the Department of Natural Resources has.
Yes, it's there's a tremendous amount of information out there. If you want to know about it in relation to what it pertains to, that information can be received.
And with that, there's a lot of careers. We talked about what you do, but there's job openings right now with the Department of Natural Resources.
Yes, sir. In particular, I work for the law enforcement division. Everybody that works for the Department of Natural Resources is not a game warden. Right. We call them the gun toters and the non-gun toters. But in my division, the law enforcement, we are in a hiring process now. I believe the applications can still be submitted up until the end of May. And it's a post-certified. You have to go through a basic mandate academy, and then there's a lengthy game warden academy that begins July the 8th, I believe, and they'll graduate late October.
Okay, so basically a 6 month as far as being a game warden, if I'm quick math.
Yeah, it's
right there.
little over 6 months, okay. And then there's a 6 month long field training once the officer graduates, and then they're on their own.
So basically, I compare that to the Georgia State Patrol. It's not a 2 week mandate or a month or whatever. It's pretty in depth. Huh?
Yes, sir. There's a lot of training involved, especially with the different things we use. But you know, operating vessels, ATVs, patrol trucks, things like that. And you know, the variety of things we deal with. We're not going to turn somebody loose out of the academy and say go. We're going to make sure they're the type of officer we want in the field.
And you know, you and I were talking off camera a little while ago. There's so much interest in game wardens by the television shows that are popping up.
Yes, sir.
There's, I think, 4 or 5 networks right now that have different kind of game warden shows, whether it be up around Maine, that area,
Yes, sir.
or Texas and places like that. But and I watch them so much. I record them on my DVR, but I'm amazed at what all y'all do. I mean, think
Yes,
about
sir.
it. You and I were talking a while ago, just like if I find a baby deer wandering around my pond and I call you, what are you going to tell me to do?
I'm going to tell you initially, I'm going to tell you to leave it alone.
Right.
This time of year, it's springtime. Wildlife was giving birth. We're going to have little turkeys, fawns, non-game wildlife for reproducing birds. When you find something that you think is abandoned, sometimes that's not the case, especially with deer. We get people that find a fawn and they think the mother has abandoned it, which is usually not the case. The female deer, the doe, she'll leave that fawn and she'll go off and feed and then come back and get it. And that fawn a lot of times will sit right where it, or lay right where it's at, and you can walk right up on them. So the best thing to do is leave it alone. If you find one and it stays in the same spot for a couple of days, then perhaps there might something have happened to the mother, and then you can make that call, that phone call, and someone will get back to you about what we can do.
And is it against the law for me to get that fawn and put it in a pen?
It is. It's against the law to possess any wildlife, live wildlife. They're not pets.
Right.
That wildlife belongs to all the people of the state, and most people have good intentions. The problem comes in they don't quite have all the knowledge they need to take care of that animal correctly, and then it becomes a pet, and it's unable to survive on its own in the wild.
Because they are wild.
That's right. They're wild animals.
So, and that covers all wildlife.
Yes,
I
sir.
mean, that's a blanket statement there.
From possums and raccoons and squirrels and deer.
Yeah.
Those are some of the more common ones that people try to make pets. Raccoons. I've had people tell me, oh, they make wonderful pets. Well, I've seen people who've had them as pets that paid the price and had to go to the emergency room.
That's right. Because, and I can't stress this enough, Corporal, they are wildlife.
Yes,
you know,
sir.
you're doing the animal a disservice
Absolutely.
by putting them in that pen, or no matter what it is there. But and raccoons, I've seen some bad stories about that.
Yes, sir.
You know, that end up, like you said, end up at the hospital. But well, I mentioned we're at the Sportsman's Club, and I'm looking out across back your shoulder right there at that beautiful river. It's up right now. We got a lot of water, don't we?
Yes, sir. It's over 14 feet right now at the Dublin gauge.
It is so beautiful. We live in a great part of the state and the country to have the things available to us, like this river that flows through Lawrence County.
Absolutely.
It's just, whether it be fishing or just riding in your boat and having a good time, or whatever you might do on the river. But a lot goes with that. And the river's up now, and I'm watching it flow pretty fast.
Yes, sir.
So safety's got to be at the top.
Absolutely. Water safety is very important to us. We conduct vessel patrols on the river, and we're going to stop and make sure you got your boating safety equipment. Most importantly to us is that life jacket, that you at least have them. They're readily accessible. We encourage people to wear them, but you can tell some of the people some of the time, but they're not going to, they may not listen. But where the law comes into effect, you have to have a wearable personal flotation device for every person on board a vessel. If you got children in the boat and they're under the age of 12 or 12 and under, they're required to wear that life jacket or PFD while that boat is on the water, unless it's anchored up or moored. But if it's moving, drifting, under power, that child has to wear that life jacket.
What is too young of a child to put in a boat, regardless of the size? Of course, you got to have the vest on, but what is too young?
There's no law that states, that there's a minimum age to be an occupant in a vessel. I've seen people with infants in their boats, and they will have Coast Guard approved flotation devices for them. You just have to be concerned especially on a river where there could be debris, other boat traffic in constricted areas, blind spots. You have to be aware that if something happens, that child's going to be very vulnerable, in a collision situation.
What are the rules or laws when it comes to I'm out here in a boat and I'm meeting another boat or coming by boats that are anchored on the side? What kind of rules are entailed there?
Well, we've got a law that we call it the 100-foot rule. The law states that when you're within 100 foot of a vessel that's anchored or moored, any public swimming area, public beach, person in the water, a residence on the river, permanent residence or part-time residence, you've got to be at idle speed within 100 feet of that. A prime example of that here on the river here in our local area is these boat landings and the river bridges. A lot of people just out of ignorance don't realize, but when you approach that bridge piling, you're required to be at idle speed within 100 foot of it. Coming by boat landings, I've seen it. One of the places that I often worry about is at the brickyard landing, because people have to, most of the time, have to come within 30 feet of that landing to pass if the river's not high enough to go around that little island. And people swim there. Somebody goes under the water, somebody comes up there on plane, and we're going to have a fatality.
Right. Yeah, and that's not something, and I know you've worked those fatalities.
Yes, sir.
And that can't be a good part of your job.
No, sir. That's what we want to avoid at all costs.
And that's one of the reasons we're having our conversation here with Corporal Dan Stiles with the Department of Natural Resources. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this.
The temperature is rising. Why not make a big splash with your family and friends this summer with a pool from Georgia Pools? A relaxing and luxurious feeling of a hot tub or sauna. Georgia Pools has a large selection of pool chemicals and accessories from name brands like Polaris, Aquabot, Pro Team Chemicals, and more. Already have a pool and need a new liner? Give Georgia Pools a call today at 478-275-3607 or stop in and visit their showroom at 1201 Hillcrest Parkway, Dublin, Georgia. Georgia Pools, Middle Georgia's largest above-ground pool dealer. Financing is available.
Welcome back, everybody. I have with me Corporal Dan Stiles with the Department of Natural Resources. We're continuing our conversation on a variety of things. We're talking about boating, and we brought out some good points. But what about your boat when you put it in the river out here or public lakes? What kind of registrations and how does that work?
All right, I'm glad you brought that up. All vessels that are on state waters, you know, the Oconee River here is state waters. Right. You know, Lake Sinclair, all the reservoirs in Georgia, you're required to have that vessel registered with the state. You'll get a sticker in the mail. They will tell you what your registration numbers are. They have to be posted on both sides, the registration on both sides of the vessel towards the bow. There's specifics on that, but that's on our website that you can look up the exact placement of that registration. The registration's good for 3 years. There's different prices for registration based on the length of the boat, and that is a good way. It does help with, like, if your boat's lost or stolen. It's a way of identifying that vessel too, in addition to the manufacturer's Hull ID number. But you can, it's very easy. There used to be old horror stories. You used to have to fill out this old green application, send it off, and there was problems with the system. For the last 3 years, there's people that buy a boat, used or new, and you can either do it online, you can do it by phone, or you can do it by mail, and within 7-8 days, they've got their registration in hand. And all the forms are on our website. You can download them, print them off, phone numbers available. So there's really no excuse for not having a vessel registered.
I'll agree with that because once again, and the website's right there on the screen. As we talk during this interview, you'll see it. Very user-friendly, and you can do about anything on there.
Yes,
you know,
sir.
but it's not like the old days. You know, we need to stress that. It's so easy to do the right thing, no matter how easy or hard.
Right.
We got to do the right thing. But
That's right.
thanks to the Department of Natural Resources for working through a system and making it easy for people that want to use them.
Right, and I also want to make people understand another value in that registration. You know, obviously the state can keep up with the numbers of vessels by that and identify it. But in case there is a boating accident or something like that, that registration, we can look that up, determine who the owner of that vessel is, and in emergency situations that can help us too.
Yep. We were talking, of course, we're here at the Lawrence County Sportsman's Club, if you're just joining us, and we're looking over at a beautiful Oconee River right now. You're looking at it, as a matter of fact, but not just Oconee River, but we've got so many, not only Lawrence County, but in our area. You mentioned Lake Sinclair, but we've got state parks and WMAs and Hugh Gillis public fishing area out Highway 80, and what a beautiful lake that is, first of all. And we go down there. We may fish or just walk around or whatever, but we're fortunate on that east side of the river, or Johnson or Swainsboro, that area, right, to have a public fishing place like that.
Yes, sir. Those public fishing areas are really a wonderful place. Yeah. You know, people that don't have private ponds or don't have a boat to get out on the river. You know, fishing's fishing. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Yeah. But overall, the fishing out there, the populations of fish are there. Mm-hmm. If they're biting, great. If they're not, try again. But it's a 107-acre lake. There's 2 additional ponds out there that they hold kids fishing events in. Yeah. Usually they'll advertise those late in May, and they have them first week or 2 of June. They'll stock catfish in them ponds, and the children come out there and they have a ball catching them. And, you know, you can operate a vessel out there. Yeah. When you operate a boat on those lakes, it's idle speed only. You can't go out there and run your boat wide open. There's no water skiing, personal watercraft, that type of thing. So it's really designed for the guy that wants to go to a quiet place and fish and have a good time.
Yeah, and it is a quiet place. It is, in the facilities, the dock out there.
Yes, sir.
The state really went in and did a great job there. I mean, and I know you work that area, but so we talk about Hugh Gillis, beautiful out that way. What about some of our WMAs?
Well, we're lucky just in Lawrence County to have 2 wildlife management areas, one on the east side and one on the northwest side. The one down here on the east side off Highway 199 is Riverbend Wildlife Management Area. There's actually 2 tracts of property with that. One's adjacent to the interstate right there at the exit 58. And then there's another additional piece of property several miles down the road. Surprisingly, there is some fishing available on those locations too. There's an oxbow lake on the upper end, on the upper tract, very popular. There's even a boat ramp there. It's also state water, so all the boating safety equipment and registrations have to apply. But they provide a good place, safe place for people to hunt. Turkey season's about over. We got a couple more weeks. It goes out May the 15th. Mm-hmm. It's still open for turkey hunters. Good opportunity to harvest a bird there. They offer deer hunting in the fall, whether it be with archery or modern firearms. There's specific dates that they have those hunts on. And then when it's not open up for big game, there's tremendous waterfowl hunting there, small game, squirrels, and of course there's always feral hogs around.
Yeah, and there are seasons for all these things, and I studied y'all's website pretty thoroughly, but looking at you see the website right there on the screen. Go on there and look at some of the things I'm talking about, but whether it be rabbit season or squirrel season, or and there's reasons for these seasons, aren't there?
Right. With the Wildlife Management Division or Wildlife Resources Division, they try and have different opportunities. You know, if you always got deer hunters up there, squirrel hunters may feel excluded. So they're going to have specific dates where different types of hunting are allowed. That way to open up so all the resources can be enjoyed by the people who have different tastes.
Okay. I always have to ask you about alligators. They intrigue me for some reason.
Yes, sir.
And I think a lot of us like to see alligators at a distance. Now, if I saw one coming toward us now, we'd probably take a commercial break here. But tell me how, is it a lottery, or how does it work?
Yeah, every year, for several years now, Georgia's had an actual alligator hunting season opportunity. It's by quota. You can't just go buy a license and kill you an alligator. Right. It's only in certain counties, and it's broken up into management units. So many permits are issued per unit. Lawrence County is included in that. I'm not sure how many permits for this area just off the top of my head, but it's a good number. If you apply and get selected, you got a good chance at harvesting an alligator. I want to remind people, though, you know, alligator hunting season starts in September and goes into early October. A lot of people, you don't start thinking about hunting until late August, September, when that dove season starts rolling around. But to apply and get selected for that quota alligator hunt, you need to apply in July. I believe the deadline to apply is July 15th on the website.
That's
so
right.
That's something to keep in mind of when you're out riding in your boat fishing, that if you want to hunt an alligator early fall, you need to start applying.
Yeah, and you're right about that date. Do you have to, is there a criteria as far as how many people have to be in the boat when you do that? I mean, is it smart for me to just go out there by myself and try to get an alligator?
I wouldn't. There's no law against it. but yeah, you're allowed to have assistance with you,
Right.
as long as you're with them and you've got your alligator license and your quota permit. You're allowed to have fellow hunters with them. And then when that alligator, you have to actually catch it. A lot of people think, well, that's no problem. I'll ride down the river with the rifle and I'll shoot one. No, that's not legal. No. You have to actually catch the alligator, right, whether it be shoot it with a bow with a line on the arrow, or harpoon, or you can snatch them with a big rod and reel and a treble hook and wrestle them up. But before you leave the site, that alligator has to be dispatched, and then the tag that you receive has to be placed in the tail of the alligator within 6 inches of the tip, and then that alligator has to be submitted for inspection within 24 hours at a wildlife WMA office or any DNR office. And
let me ask you about snakes. Someone that is in the woods, and there's no telling where you are in the course of a week, but that'd take many shows for me to talk to you about that probably.
Yes,
but talk to our viewers about safety and being aware of your surroundings and trying to help from being snake bitten.
Well, this is the time of year to start thinking about it. They've been out, we had some warm weather early and then it got cold again, but we've got several species of venomous snakes. Most people are more familiar with rattlesnakes, and then they're going to say water moccasin next, right, or cottonmouth. We got copperheads too. You just have to be aware. If you're out walking somewhere, even around your house, old wood piles, your firewood stacked up, any place that attracts small rodents, you're liable to find a snake of any kind, and it could be a venomous one. You don't want to mess with them. Most people that do get bit by venomous snakes get bit because they're playing with them.
Right.
But it does happen. I've nearly stepped on them. I've been very lucky, but it goes to show you that they really don't want to bite you.
That's right.
Unless they have to. So you want to be aware of where they might be. I'm not saying everybody needs to have a pair of snake boots to go out and mow their grass,
right,
but you do need to be aware. Now, there's no law against killing a venomous snake, but all non-venomous snakes are protected. A lot of people don't realize that.
I learned something new here.
Yeah, and it's not like we're going to come lock you up if you killed a garter snake that scared your mom in the kitchen.
Right.
But we don't want to just wholeheartedly go out and kill snakes. The non-venomous snakes are beneficial to us.
Yeah.
And some of them will even somewhat imitate venomous snakes. There's one snake in particular, it's a banded water snake, and they look suspiciously like a water moccasin or a cottonmouth. And I see very few water moccasins and cottonmouths. I can count on one hand the number I've seen on the river.
Wow.
Most of them are actually that banded water snake,
yeah,
and people mistake them, and then they kill them, and it's really not a threat to them.
Yeah, and they serve a purpose, like a king snake. You don't want to kill that king snake.
That's right.
Not only is it good for the environment, it's going to take care of them poisonous snakes.
That's right.
That we don't want around.
Exactly.
So, well, that's really good information there. Did we learn something there? That was pretty good, wasn't it? We're going to take another commercial break and come back and finish our conversation with Corporal Dan Stiles with the Department of Natural Resources.
I'm Marcus Clements with Clements & King Insurance. Are you on Medicare or about to go on Medicare? Clements & King Insurance has all the answers to all that's available to you when you reach this age. Clements & King Insurance for all your health and life insurance needs.
Welcome back, everybody. I have with me Corporal Dan Stiles with the Department of Natural Resources, and we've talked about a lot of things today, and I want to thank you again for taking this time to not only talk to me, but educate our viewers. And you've educated me today on some things. I can't believe I study for these interviews. I don't just show up and do an interview. And I can't believe the things you've taught me today. So, and I hope you've learned something listening to us today. And I want to stress again, it's right there on the screen. Go to the website, the Department of Natural Resources. You can Google Georgia Department of Natural Resources. It'll pop right up on you, or log on to that website. And as I mentioned earlier, it's very user-friendly and so many things on there. And one thing I want to talk about, and you can get more information on the website, but there's so many parks in our area here. Talk about that just a minute.
Yeah, we've got, there's 3 parks that pop into mind. One park that's the closest one to us right now, within 45 minutes or less, probably 30 minutes, is Little Okmulgee State Park.
Oh yeah.
And you know, what a resource. I mean, if you're a golfer, you probably are familiar with it, but they have miniature golf. There's a lake there. You can rent bicycles, rent canoes. Yep. I think they may even rent kayaks.
Yep.
Cabins.
Yeah.
There's regular, you know, camping, tent camping, RV camping. Plus, they've got a lodge with a restaurant. Anything.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. It's
yeah,
gorgeous
there's a nature trail,
yeah.
And you can paddle up to the upper end of that lake, right into the swamp, you know, and big trees, and see different things, you know, that are available in South Georgia as far as wildlife. Georgia Veterans State Park isn't that far from here, over in Cordele, right there on Lake Blackshear. They've got a swimming beach. They also have cabins, of course, fishing, you know, in Lake Blackshear. One that folks may not think about, George L. Smith State Park is up just north of Metter. They've got an old mill pond there, good fishing at times of the year. Again, they've got all the, you know, the camping, and all this is close to home. It's kid-friendly, it's a safe environment, and it's not expensive. I mean, to go visit a park for a day is a $5 parking fee, and I mean, whatever you spend on food and drinks.
Yeah, all you got to do, you know, and I've done it many times, get you some sandwiches together, some cold drinks, and grab the kids. And the good thing about you're outdoors, you're experiencing things that the state of Georgia have here for us.
That's right.
And that's why it's so inexpensive. That's why you have that $5 charge, which helps with the upkeep, and we're all for that.
That's right.
But the place we just talked about, I guess Cordele might be the furthest, an hour.
Right.
I hadn't timed it, but about an hour. Yeah. I love that golf course there, and we were talking about alligators. They definitely got alligators at Veterans State Park, so you can view them, and there's some pretty big ones.
Oh yeah, there
on the golf course.
Yeah. Little Okmulgee's the same way. They may not come onto the golf course, but they're in that lake, and you can view them.
Yeah. And witness wildlife. I know when I play golf at Little Okmulgee, we see deer crossing the fairways, or fox, or we see snakes. You know, you see rabbits, and just so much wildlife. And to me, and that's what I love about Little Okmulgee as far as the golf course. You're back in the woods. You're in nature.
That's right.
You know, it's quiet, and it's just, you know, if you don't enjoy the outdoors now, I'm telling you.
Well, Georgia's got a tremendous state park system. Basically, one of their bragging points is that there's a state park within an hour's drive of anywhere in Georgia. My family, we've always liked to go to North Georgia and utilize the state parks up there around Helen and Amicalola Falls, and tremendous scenery and opportunities for recreation.
Yep, absolutely. Is there anything we hadn't touched on?
Well, I think we talked about Riverbend WMA. I never really spoke specifically about Beaver Dam, which is up on the northwest side of Lawrence County. Completely different topography than you'll see on the east side at Riverbend. A little more hilly, a lot more hardwoods. There's a boat landing there onto the Oconee River. It's basically it was right there on the Wilkinson-Johnson county line with Lawrence, and you know, good place to, you know, good ramp. You can launch your vessel and go up or down river and enjoy the water.
Yeah, and you can notice how quiet it is. We're here at the Lawrence County Sportsman's Club, and you may hear an occasional car coming down to the river, but basically all I've heard, other than maybe a car or two, you hear the breeze and the water flowing. And
that's right.
If you did nothing except, and we've done these shows for years, whether it be at Buckeye Park or Blackshear Landing or here, we'll see people at times just in their chairs.
Yeah, a lot of people
in the river.
Absolutely. One other thing I did want to mention, kayaking has become very popular. We've had some issues with kayakers missing their takeout points and going down river. It gets dark on them. I think kayaking is great. I love to see people on the river enjoying the river that way. But be advised, do your homework before you set out if you're not familiar with this section of river, where them landings are, where you can get out at. Have a float plan. Let somebody know what your plan is and how to contact you in case something happens. You may lose that cell phone in the river and get out there after dark and not have a light. That's an uncomfortable feeling. So just if you are a kayaker, and I want to speak to the boaters in the county too, we need to be aware of these people in these watercraft, because I've seen a lot of children kayaking with their parents and they're in their own vessels. So we need to be cognizant and be aware that there may be a child in a small vessel on that river. So when you're running it in your power boat, be on the lookout for them.
Yep. And what I hear in that kayaking or whatever, we need to do our due diligence.
Absolutely.
And not just jump in a boat and take off. We need to know, like you mentioned to me earlier, how high the river was. We need to know those kind of things, you know, and the water's running pretty fast right now. So, you know, I've seen a limb or two and they disappear about as quick as they come into sight. So that tells me the movement of the river.
Yeah, I mean, you're subject to run into a piece of floating debris in this river at any given time, no matter what the water level is. When it's up like this, it's washing stuff that's been up on the bank, you know, until the water reaches it and floats it. So you have to be aware of these obstacles and changing sandbars. And of course, a lot of people that are regulars on the river are going to know where them big rocks are, but they can surprise you too.
Yep, absolutely. And we hope you've enjoyed our show today with Corporal Dan Stiles with the Department of Natural Resources. And I just want you to understand before we go, these are not just rules or laws that somebody made up just to make it hard on us. These are laws to protect us on these waterways and the state parks that we've talked about. But we want you to get out and enjoy one of our state parks. I was glad to learn there's one within an hour of anywhere in the state of Georgia. That's good information. So we want you to get out and enjoy our state parks. It's May. It's a beautiful time of the year. It's a beautiful day today when we're actually taping this show. And I'm telling you, there's something about being down here on the Lake Oconee. It's so peaceful down here, but we want you to be safe this summer. Make sure you wear that life jacket, and make sure you got your kids with life jackets. And let's stress that one more time. 12 and under.
Yes,
have to wear it at all times.
That's right. They're required to wear it at all times in a vessel that's adrift or under power.
Okay. Corporal, thank you so much for
Yes,
joining
sir.
me today. And we thank you for joining us today. Have a great summer, and please be safe.